Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Nihai Connections. Today, I am going to be sharing with you some information at the request of Mrs. Porter regarding daycare emergencies and how you should handle them as a child care provider. Now, you don't necessarily have to be a child care provider in order to implement these practices that you will be learning today, these points, that is. And I want to thank Mrs. Porter, for allowing me to be here to share with you this important information regarding child care procedures and emergencies. This particular segment is called What Happens When a Child Has a Seizure at Your Facility. My question to you is, do you know how to handle that particular situation that may occur at your facility as a child care provider? You know, are you at the place to where you know what to do and how to protect the child that is having a seizure inside of your facility? And this is not going to be a long, drawn out broadcast that I'm sharing with you, but it's going to be straight to the point, to where it will give you the points, and it's up for you as the child care professional to do your research and to get up to speed to know what you need to do in case something like this happens at your facility. It's vitally important to protect those babies that's in your care. And this morning, I'm going to share with you 8 points on how to implement an emergency plan of action when something like a seizure occurs. Now, when a seizure occurs, it is the electrical brain activity that just goes haywire, for lack of a better term, inside that child's mind. And it's something very serious. And the child tenses up. I don't know if you've ever experienced a seizure, a child having a seizure, but it's something that's very intense. And the most important thing is protecting that child when that particular event happens. And there are different levels of seizure that I'm going to be just touching bases on. But you can do your research to discover the different types of seizures, and I may at some point in time in this broadcast get that information for you as well, because it's vitally important that you should know. When a seizure occurs, there are 8 steps that you are to put into practice, and listen very carefully and very closely, okay? This isn't the end-all be-all regarding how to handle a seizure, but it's these are steps that help give you a good foundation regarding your plan of action, as I emphasize. When a child has a seizure, it's very important to place that child on a soft surface. Now, we know that if you're on field trips, if you're going to the museum and, all these different locations that you may take these babies, these children, beds are not there, okay? So if something like a seizure occurs and you're out on a field trip, it's very important to, if you don't have, there's not going to be a bed around, people. You lay that child safely on the floor and turn that child on their side. And I'm going to get to that particular step in a moment. But it's very important to lay the child down. Don't allow the child to lay on his or her back, because there's a special reason for that. And just to interject, do you know the reason why you should not lay a child on his or her back when they're having a seizure? And when you keep watching, I'm going to share the reason why you should not do that. But when a child tenses up, they tense up to the max. I mean, the body goes all into a very tense position, and because of the electrical brain activity that is uncontrolled, and that's going just haywire in their mind, in their brain, that is. and the child that is not, you're not protecting that child, they can injure themselves. The long and the short of it, when they're not placed on a soft surface, or if they're on a hard surface, you want to make sure that child is, not injuring themselves as they go throughout this particular tense these movements that they're jerking, convulsions, and you don't want the child's heads banging against the floor or whatever, surface that you have them on when they're tensing up. So step number one, protect the child. Vitally important. Step number two, prevent the child from choking. Now, that's the reason why you lay the child on his or her side, to prevent them from choking on any type of regurgitation that may come up from the stomach content. The stomach contents may come up into the esophagus, and when you lay that child on the side, it's a better way to where those contents or any type of liquid that's in their mouth and throat can drain out onto the surface that you have them laying on. That's very important. Providers, or you don't even have to be a provider to do this, but we're focusing on childcare providers this morning, and you want those contents to flow out freely when the child is having a seizure emergency. Now, you also can place this child on their stomach, and that will also help drain out any type of liquid or fluid contents freely to prevent the child from choking. Step number three, as a professional, you want to ensure that the child is breathing adequately, and that kind of coincides with step two. You don't want anything to obstruct that child's breathing process. Never place anything in the child's mouth during a convulsion. Do you know why? Well, the child can choke on it. You don't want to place anything in the child's mouth, like your finger. That's one of the things that can happen, like a finger or object or anything like that, because then when they're going through this seizure activity, they can be biting down really hard and injure or break or crack their teeth. A numerous amount of things that can occur that can also cause further injury to the child. And you definitely don't want to stick your finger in that child's mouth because you may pull it back and it may not be there. You don't want to injure yourself while you're trying to protect the child, because that is a serious distraction. When you're injured, the child is, further injured, because now they're in the position of where your finger's off of your hand, and I know it's dramatic, but going down their throat because they're swallowing your finger. And I know that's a lot, people, but I want to emphasize the point too. You don't stick your finger in a child's mouth when they're having a seizure or going through the convulsions while they're having a seizure. Protection is key. Step number 5, you gently clean saliva and other debris from the child's mouth. And we touch bases on that in step number 2 and step number 3 coincide. You want to make sure that everything stays free out of the child's mouth during a seizure. Step number 6, check the time. That's a lot of, that's something that we have to really emphasize as professionals. You check the time when the seizure occurs. Don't get all in a panic to where you just go all over the place and you don't even know what's going on, and you're losing control, you're losing composure, and you want to make sure that you stay strong as a professional. Calm down. It's very important to calm down, calm yourself down. I know it's easily said than done, but as an adult, you need to remain in control, because you have a child that's out of control. You got children that are getting out of control because they see the child that's out of control with the seizure that they cannot help themselves. And you want to make sure that you keep calm, okay? And go through these particular steps to help protect not only the child that's having a seizure, but the ones around you. Because when your face expresses a calm nature, then it tends to spread out to the other audience despite the chaos that's going on the inside of you. You know, you still want to remain calm. Okay. All right. Now, just want to add, you want to make sure you time, since we're talking about time, before we come to a close, you want to time how long the seizure lasts. Did it last 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds? No matter what degree of time, you want to ensure that you keep an accurate, you know, to the best of your ability, time of how long the seizure activity had happened, because why you will have to report this to health professionals. You definitely have to report it to to the child's parent. You want to keep them informed of what happened to their child and the long or the length of time that the seizure activity occurred. That's very important. Step number seven. Administer any type of treatment that you have consent for. Notice I said the word consent, okay? During a medical emergency, if you see that child, I mean, it's just to a point to where you know it's way out of your hands, call 911. Call in the health professionals that can help get that child what they need. Dial 911 as soon as you notice that it is just out of control and you need to seek further medical assistance. Don't try to sit there or stand there or be there to try to take things into your own hands, thinking that you can save the situation or save, you know, what's happening to that child. Call in the medical professionals, as I emphasize again. Step number 8, when the child is fully awake, you know, that's when you can, it goes back to step number 7, give that child medicines or medications that you have consent for to give. Number of things that can happen that can cause a seizure to occur. And one of the main things is fever. You know, children, they get bugs and it goes through the system because their immune system isn't fully developed yet. And a high fever can cause a seizure type of activity. Well, as I stated before, I don't want to draw this particular segment out. Do your research, find out what you need to do to build a foundation. Make sure you have everything in place as a healthcare professional. And when it concerns steps, you know, you try to put these things into action because preparation is key during an emergency. Well, that's it for this particular segment. I'm Leon Porter. Thank you for watching.